And as you know, because we're all very Zoom experienced, the only way to opt out of being recorded is with your feet or with your keyboard when you depart. So, thanks for no one running away yet. That's great. So a little bit of background. This is a presentation brought to you by the Professional Development Consortium of Hampton Roads. Our purpose is to provide affordable and intimate education to the leaders of membership associations. For example, professional societies, civic leagues, alumni clubs, fraternities, sororities, basically any group that gathers around, at least semi-formally, around a common interest area. We do this because there's really not an affordable, intimate source for that type of education elsewhere. So I think we're really filling a gap. You can go to nonprofit training. You can go to the chambers of commerce. You can go to local universities and get immersed in various depths of leadership. But none of them are particularly tuned to that peculiar business model that we face or that we own in associations, where basically you are doing things for your membership. You hope the outside world knows about that, cares about that, and eventually joins your membership. We hope that some of those members actually show up for things, so you have this engaged membership. From that engaged membership, you may grow next year's leaders or the next cycle of leaders. And with all of that in place and working well, you have a virtuous cycle. So the year after, you build even better programs and attract a larger membership and grow the leadership pipeline. If pieces are missing, then you have that, that cycle works in reverse, and it becomes an unhealthy situation. So I've been working in the membership association business, and not really working in business. I've been a volunteer leader in membership associations, just like you, on and off for about 30 years, as little as a 10 townhouse homeowners association to as large as where I'm currently spending some time with at the global level of a professional society. And one of the things I learned along the way, doing some things really well and some things really poorly, is that there were two pieces that were present when I was doing well. Was understanding the art of the possible, right? Other people in the same role are achieving greater results than I think I am, or overcoming challenges easier than I am. And then a chance for continuing education, plug in with others in the same boat, as it were, birds of a feather, and plug in with folks who need to know whatever aspect it is I'm curious about or interested in, people who would have to do that to put a roof over their head. So commercial and academic experts. So tonight we have with us Jessie Rosamarinowski from Altruise. He's beaming all the way in from Wisconsin for us. He is the director of community outreach for Altruise. So he has to do this right if he wants to eat and keep a roof over his head. And he and I met probably about 3 or 4 months ago. And I just jumped right on once I learned what he was doing. We had a couple conversations, and I'm just pleased as punch that he was able to give of his valuable time and be here with us this evening. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Jessie. We'll let people drift in left and right. But Jessie, the floor is yours.
Awesome. So yeah, again, thank you very much for inviting me here to speak, Mark. I am excited about this, and I hope everybody can take something away from it. If you haven't, I have failed you, and we'll need to fix that. My name is Jessie Rosamarinowski. I'm with Altruise, and we're a company that helps people be intentional about helping others. We create an app that essentially is the Fitbit for your altruism. It allows you to track your goals and see how you're doing, and then try to increase your altruism, because like anything, you have to practice it to be better. And so that's our idea behind the Altruise app, which you can find on your phone. Beyond that, I have experience from being in the military as an intelligence analyst. I previously worked as an intelligence analyst, and I kind of go back to that model of doing things, of gathering information, organizing it, and then disseminating out to the appropriate people in order to make a decision. So I keep that process in place for what I do with my community outreach, and you'll see a lot of intertwining in there. I've also helped run the first, get the first independent elected in the state of Wisconsin legislature since 1928, and I did that back in 2008. So there's been a lot of different things I've done before coming into LTRIs as a community outreach director. I'm going to share my screen now. So just give me 1 second. And can everybody see the screen?
We're good, Jesse.
All right, awesome. Again, I'm Jessie Rosamarinowski, and I'm the Community Outreach Director with LTRIs. The overview and purpose of this is I want you to have a good understanding how to design, gather, and analyze insight from people in your community who should be members. The challenge that we often have is that we might have an idea of what we want to do, but we might not know where to start, and then execute a plan for outreach and find out if that plan is working. We'll discuss what I consider important before we design and gather information, including the 5 methods for collecting data. And then we're going to move on to designing and organizing that information from your outreach to distribute to the appropriate people to take further action, because doing all this wonderful work, you should have results and be able to take action based on those results. So before you get started, the one thing that popped up my head over and over when I was putting this together is that often we do things without really the preparation side of things and not understanding why we should do something. And I put this slide together saying before you go out and put together a plan, that you should gather information and have a base for what you want to do. So one of the things that I think is important is understanding who is a member in your current association, and then why. And this really can be found in your mission vision statement. And it might sound like a silly question, but how often have you gone to your own mission and vision statement and seen how it relates to the people that you want to be a part of your association? What does your organization do? And just let that sit in there for a second. And then who are those people that you serve currently? And who is it that you want to serve that, again, really should be members, and you're not trying to change your mission vision for the association, but really saying to yourself, like, hey, well, what's going on? Like, how do people respond to us? What is it that they feel when they're a part of your association? Do you do something such as give them information that they can't find elsewhere, or they would have to spend hours going to? Is it a sense of camaraderie? When they join your association, do they feel like they're an exclusive club? Is it just other members that they know because maybe you're a school and you're an alumni of a school and they can relate to you? Maybe they went to UW-Madison. That's my alma mater. Apparently speaking bigger words is difficult, but yeah, so maybe there's a reason why they are getting behind it. What are those feelings behind it? And keep this in mind, because we're going to lead into an exercise in a little bit of the whys of people are joining your association and discussing with others. But yeah, I just want you to sit on that and think a little bit about it. The next thing I wanted to talk about before you start gathering information, go back and ask why somebody is not a member. Were they not a good fit? Maybe it's solely because they're not part of your target audience. That's fine. But understanding that and making sure you're not going after those same types of people is going to cut down a lot of waste of time, knowing exactly who your fit is with your association. Maybe it's a toxic relationship. And the other thing is maybe they're a fit for your association, but it's not a win for you, and it's not a win for them. They could solely not be able to afford your services. You are providing a valuable service, and you should be able to put a monetary value to it and what they need to pay. So just because they do fit into your association doesn't necessarily mean that they actually should become a member. Another thing to think about is, how have you reached out to them in the past? Have you reached out to them? And if you have, did you ask them to join? I see a lot of people do outreach, but they never actually ask them to join. And that could be just, take for an example, there's a cool event happening. You bring it up, but you never ask them the question like, hey, Mark, I have this event happening this Friday at 6 p.m. Will you be able to join me? If I just mention it, he's probably just thinking, okay, he's being, just information sharing. But when you ask them, it makes it a little bit more personalized. So that's something to think about. And the other thing is, if you've asked them before and they said no, how did you respond to them? Not what you said, but how you respond to them. Because when somebody says no, it doesn't always mean no. There might be certain reasons. They have a lot going on. There's a lot of things that we just don't understand. So just making sure that when you respond to a no, that you're allowing to keep that conversation going into the future and not destroying all relations with them. So just being able to say, hey, that's cool, I understand. Is it okay if I touch base with you again in the future? So another thing that I wanted to hit up on before we move to the next slide is actually speaking with people who are no longer members of your association. Find out why they left and ask those hard, difficult questions. If you're not setting up an exit survey, which this is one community outreach example, is when somebody leaves, you should be doing an exit survey for them. The primary purpose of that exit survey is you want to truly understand why they're leaving. Maybe it is that you're not providing the right value to them. And now you can find out exactly what it was that they wanted. And if it's something that falls underneath your umbrella, they just gave you a free idea to run with. You can be like, oh, that's something we can do. If it's not, that's fine. You can move on without them. Maybe they thought it was a good fit and it really wasn't. And again, maybe it's a money issue. There's so many different things that maybe they're leaving because they've hit some hard financial times, and maybe you have a program that they didn't even know about where you can offer them it for half off. It's really up to your organization to make those decisions, but understanding why they're leaving and being able to be proactive versus reactive to those situations will take you a long way. And the last reason why you want to do an exit survey, as I call it, is it gives you that last chance to make amends, because maybe there's a misunderstanding. So you can be like, hold on here, like, I'm glad you mentioned that you thought the price wasn't right or you can't afford it. We actually do offer this program, or whatever it might be. And again, don't bend where you break, but bend where it actually makes sense and it's still supporting your entire mission and vision statement with your association. I think a great example that everybody would agree with, might be a little controversial, is that the Boy Scouts of America, they were, they were made to feel kind of guilty that was only for boys to join, and they wanted to be more inclusive, so they opened up to girls as well. And I think a lot of people thought that was a good idea at the time, but it really, if you go back to their original mission and vision statement, that wasn't the intent of the Boy Scouts of America. That they had an audience, and as soon as they opened up, they opened up because they're like, this is a solution, because their numbers were falling already, and they thought it would help increase those numbers. Well, if they would have went back to their mission and vision statement and said, hey, this is who we are and this is who we're looking for, I bet you any money they wouldn't be in the situation where they are now. And vice versa, if you look at the Girl Scouts of America, their membership is actually growing across the US. And they didn't open it up to anybody further. They've stuck with what their original mission and vision statement was and keep growing off it, versus saying, hey, we're going to bend till that breaks. So might have some disagreements in the audience. I know it's a little controversial, but that is my thoughts on the situation. I've spoken with a lot of people that would agree with it. So the next thing that I have is actually an activity. I think you've heard me speak enough. And plus, I know Mark didn't mention this, but I am recovering from losing my voice on Sunday. So this will give me a chance to also drink a little bit of water and not talk as much. But for this first activity of 2 activities, is I want you to essentially help digest what data you'll need to seek, with who, and where to find it. For the first few minutes, we're going to break off into 9-minute sessions, and we're just going to break it in half. So we'll have 2 groups. But I want you to introduce yourselves, keep it to 30 seconds, tell us what your why is, what your organization does. And I want you to start off in alphabetical order, so you're not all staring at each other for the first few seconds awkward. And then after you do that for 30 seconds each, I want you to each go around again in alphabetical order, brainstorm the reasons why your members feel like they belong with your association. What are those underlying emotions that they have of joining your association? Not like, oh, we offer a 20% discount here. Those aren't the real reasons why people are joining your association. It's really deeper than that, a connection and understanding that. And it's okay if you don't know, because I think as you talk with each other, you're going to start seeing some similar patterns between the associations. There's going to be a lot of things in common, and not everything is going to be relatable to your association, but I think that brainstorming is going to be helpful. And then also, I want you to identify if your association needs to understand why members join your association, because that is prohibitive of actually putting a plan in place that makes sense. And so if the answer is yes or no, that's okay. If it's yes, then the one thing I challenge you to do after this evening is put together a method that's going to help you understand that. And then also, which we'll go through, we'll also be touching on a little bit later as well. If the answer is no, then I want you to expand or grow your community outreach after this evening. And your challenge is finding how the best way to do that is. And we'll be talking a little bit more on the different methods of starting up what I call an MVP, which we'll talk about. But before we break out, I didn't speak about my why. My why is I want to help people find their higher purpose in life. So everything I do is I'm helping other people find their higher purpose in life, because I know that that will help solve other problems, such as people who might be depressed. If I can just find a way to get them out to go do an activity where they do something for somebody else without expecting anything in return, that they will actually receive something. It's this inner fulfillment. So that is my why in life, is helping other people find their higher purpose. With that said, Mark, can you break everybody off into 2 groups, please?
All right, press the magic button and we're going to fly into our groups automatically if I've set this up right. So let's find out.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, welcome back, everybody. I apologize for that. I thought I was going to have the opportunity in Zoom to make a more elegant departure from the room. Last thing I ran, somewhere's in the technology said, oh, how long would you like to wait before the room closes? And I assumed that was going to happen again. I said 10 seconds. And so to the group I was with, I think I had a chance to get an apology out. And to those who were in the other room, hey, sorry about that. So, and true apologies to whoever it was I cut off mid-sentence.
I think Teddy will forgive you, I hope. he was talking in our group discussion. Yeah.
All's forgiven. I've been part of PDCHR this for quite a while, and I found it valuable because it allows me to step outside the professional societies I belong to and see the same problems, and like tonight's meeting, how are we addressing that, and get new fresh ideas, which I've already gotten tonight, that I can take back to the society leadership and say, let's think about this. So continue on, please.
So what I want to do now is, again, I want somebody from each group and give us a little brief of what you guys discuss in each group, of the different things that you're able to identify as the reasons why people belong to your association and what those things were in common.
I think I heard that professional certification and continuing education credits were in common.
I would agree with you, Ben, that was a common theme in our group. For the other group, were you in that one, Mark?
Yeah, but I'm just going to talk about me. You got to ask somebody else.
I was going to ask you who I should pick on.
Perfect. Well, Sally reacted fastest on that, so I think Sally just volunteered with that head nod. And you're going to have to do yourself off mute, though. There you go. And you put yourself back on mute.
Okay, there we go.
All right,
Sorry about
Sally,
that.
Sally, hands off the keyboard. Now talk.
Okay. With our group, we're not joined by our profession, but by being folks who have graduated from college or a 2-year program and are interested in a lot of advocacy for women. And so the reasons that our folks join are mostly those who they want to be advocates. But I think about most of it, and a lot of it is just social reasons. A lot of these women, there's many that are older than me. And we have book clubs where we, and each book club has a little different purpose of the kind of book they read. And it's an intellectual exercise, I think, and a personal support thing. And we also, do other social events, but we do a lot of advocacy, like voters registration and trying to connect with local colleges and universities to do programs. But we have a big problem with recruitment, and our membership has gone down like probably 10 or 11 folks in the last few years. But since we're older, we often lose members to death or to retirement homes, So I was just, we're all volunteers. We're not still, and most of us are not working, but some are for sure. And they're often some of the most active members. But is that the kind of thing you're interested in, Jessie?
Yeah, and if it's okay, I love making these a little bit more fun. So I'm gonna pick on you a little bit more, Sally, so you look like you can handle it.
Okay.
Why do you think people volunteer with is it Cessna?
AAUW
Okay.
is the
I was trying to read your last name, I guess.
it's Patterson Cessna.
Yeah.
Just call me Sally. That's
okay.
fine.
Yeah, well, why do you think people, well, like, what's the importance to them? Because, there's all these competing things that they could do. They could, if they wanted to, they can stay home and watch Netflix, but why are they,
We
coming
do
in and
have,
joining?
we have a good amount of people who go to our website and the website is very heavy on, the advocacy side and supporting grad students with, with research grants and things like that. And they say, I just want to be a part of that. And then some people come in, like I was telling our breakout group, we have a thing called Movie Sisters. Well, we'll go to movies that are directed or written by women and then talk about that and what it might mean, and some people, we invite friends to those. And so some of those folks, they enjoy going to the movies and the conversations, and they might make the step further and join. I think most of AUW is supposed to be nonpartisan, but it definitely leans liberal, and so a lot of women who have those leanings, are likely to join. But it's a really good question because we'd sure like to get more folks interested, I don't know about the social and the mission, I think are the most likely reasons.
Unlikely contribution here, but my mother was born in 1917 and my sister in 1946. And they were both college educated, and sister was the first co-ed class at Clemson living on campus.
Oh my
And
gosh,
so they did it to celebrate those achievements and to try to pass that on.
that's great. That's great.
One thing I think that would be a great action item to take for a lot of people is reach out to your current membership, going back to what I mentioned, and really finding out, what brings them there to the association. Why was the reason? Did they have a personal relationship maybe with Sally? And her excitement about what they do is what brings them. But yeah, really dig deep into that, because I think it would help a lot of people on this Zoom to understand that and being able to relate that to other people and find them that would share that same excitement with you.
That's
I'm gonna move along and I'm gonna share my screen again here. All right, can everybody see my screen again?
That's good,
Okay.
Jesse.
All right, awesome. Never trust me, and so I always ask every time. All right, so the next thing before we go into discussing about designing a plan is understanding the 5 methods of collecting information. The first way is publications. If you don't have enough information, this is where I suggest going, is just doing Google searches, data mining, going to different websites, finding who you need to get in touch with. If you have competitors, use their pages, because guess what? They're a competitor. They probably have different people that you should be targeting as well. And yeah, just finding exactly who it is. There's things beyond me that I'm less technical, but there's way to do web scraping. If you have a technical person on your team, you can ask them like, hey, we'd like to web scrape, and this is what we're looking for. And they can essentially pull data from different websites where you could go to the website and put things into an Excel sheet or whatever. They can do that automatically. So it's a cool thing. Again, I can't go into details about that because I am not the expert, but we've had people with LTRIs who have done that. And a lot of times it's interns who are, it's part of their college degree is on that side of things. So just seeing if you have any valuable resource for that. Another way to collect information is through industry magazines or newsletters. I'm sure most of you probably publish your own, but you also might be a part of others as well. And just seeing who who it is that's reading those magazines, who's reading those newsletters. Are they members of yours yet? And just, yeah, figuring out if they're matches. That's one area is the publications. Another method of collecting information is essentially your database, your documents and records. If you don't have a database already, you need to start. And if you don't like your database, find out why and make adjustments. And make sure that you're tracking the right things. What else do you need besides their name, their phone number and address? Maybe you should have their birth dates, and you don't currently have that. But make sure that there's an intent behind it. Just don't get data that doesn't matter. So for like LTRIs, we do care about how many community service hours people do. So our app actually grabs that input from people. We also care about their birth date because we want to make sure that our platform is secure. And we're hitting federal regulations where if you're under 12, you do have to have a parent do it for them. So there's different things like that. Making sure that your database is working for you, not against you. That leads into, do you use a CRM? I have experience using different CRMs such as HubSpot, Thrive. MailChimp really isn't a CRM, but it can be used with CRMs, and it's lightweight in what you can use. That's another thing is your emails. They're another documents and records, really looking at your emails and using that information in your emails to make decisions and figure out what you should do for your MVP. Do you get a lot of feedback from your emails? Or do you send out emails and you don't hear anything? Then the third thing is personal engagements. This is actually my favorite thing, but it can be time consuming compared to other things. And when I say personal engagement, that's things such as networking, meeting one-on-one with people, jumping into Zoom calls, actually making a phone call with people and speaking with them. The events that you hold, those are different personal engagements. I would throw your social media as personal engagements when you reach out to somebody over maybe LinkedIn, and then asking yourself, how are those personal engagements going? Are you, when you do that, are you starting with your why of what you're doing? Or are you just jumping in saying, hey, join as a member? Because you need to have a process to actually reaching out to somebody. So for an example, one thing that I see, and I can talk a lot about personal engagement because I love networking with people. If I could do that all day long, I would. But unfortunately, that's not the only thing I have to do. There's other tasks. And what I see with LinkedIn, if I don't know how many people are on LinkedIn here, but if you don't have one, I'd suggest getting one. I know Mark has one. And I'll find out if the rest of you are, because if it's okay, I'll be trying to connect you with LinkedIn because you never know if you're going to help somebody. And that's kind of how I engage with people on social media, is I don't connect with them to try to sell them something and not to information splurge. It's kind of thinking of it this way. If you were trying to go on a date with somebody and say that somebody's you, and they told you their whole life story to you in a matter of minutes, you'd be like, oh my goodness, like what's wrong with that person? You need to be like, hey, I'd love to learn more about what you're doing. I'm going to pick on Ben. I'm going to say, Ben, I'd love to learn more about what you're doing. Do you have 15 minutes next week? And Ben's going to say yes or no. Or you can be really upfront and be like, hey, Ben, love to learn what you're doing. What's your calendar look like next week? There's so many different ways that you can position. But if you're going to do that, make sure you're not wasting their time and be truly interested in what they're doing. don't just do it because you're looking to, to move only your agenda. Do it because you actually offer something of value to them and you really do care about them. And I found that to be an amazing way to connect with people, is when you truly care about them, then you're able to actually share with them that what you also care about and link it back to them, being like, hey, Ben, I know that you do a lot of things in the community, and I'd love to learn more about what you're doing with your association and how I can help. How is next week, Thursday? Say 3:30 to 4 work for you? And keeping it short. Don't say everything you know. It's just scary because they don't need to know all of it. I know we're all experts with our own organizations, but yeah, but it's very powerful with the personal engagements, networking and talking with people and moving the needle forward, but it's also very time consuming.
Yeah, I've seen sometimes when I talk to a mentee that's trying to contact a more experienced person, I say, make sure you bring some information to the meeting as well. It may be valuable to the mentor. And sometimes I suggest just reading up on conferences that are going on in that field, and just bring some ideas from that upcoming conference to them, and ask them if they're going. And that's something you can at least bring to the meeting and offer to the mentor.
Yep, absolutely. Those are good ideas. That's prepping you up for success, making sure you're doing your essentially your research before you actually sit down with that person. Another thing with personal engagements, back to the events thing, is, are you gathering that the audience that's attending your events, and are you actually using that information? So half the time I don't see people take attendance. They have maybe a sign up list, but the sign up list doesn't include everybody. It might be missing people, or it might not have people that show up. So actually taking attendance at the events, and then the information that you want to gather from them, and have an intent of what you're using that information for. Don't just say, ask for all this information and it doesn't really matter. So making sure you're getting the right information. Request it when they come in, be like, hey, here's a sign up sheet or sign in sheet. And then if you've got other things that you do out in the community, use that to your advantage. Do you work with other organizations that have those type of members that you need in your organization? The fourth thing I want to touch on is surveys. This is a quick, easy way to get information. Make sure you know the intent of the survey, of what you really want to accomplish, and make it so that the person really cares about, completing it. Like, what is in it for them? Because you obviously know what's in it for the organization, but what is it in for them? Maybe it's providing those results. So a couple months ago, we sent out a survey asking how the pandemic has changed their company culture and what they're doing to recreate that company culture. Are they coming back to the office? Will their workers be staying remote? All these different questions. And what it was for us as a company, L-Tries, we wanted to see how L-Tries could be used for their company culture. And if it was something that they're looking at as the community service aspect, are they currently paying their employees to take 8 hours of leave a year? Things like that. But if they're going to take time to fill out this survey, we told them this is going out to other HR professionals, and they're always curious what other HR professionals are doing. Maybe because they want to steal their ideas. Maybe it's because they want to see what's working. And so we told them that we would share the results at, I think that one ran till March 31st. So we said that we'd share results on April 1st. But yeah, it's really simple to create an Insta tool. Easy tools to use. Google has different surveys that you can easily create. I am not a mastermind when it comes to using tech stuff, believe it or not. And I've been able to figure out, it just takes a little bit. And if you know somebody in your office who can do it quicker, ask them. But it's pretty simple. The fifth method for collecting information is observations. This one, I won't spend a whole lot of time on it. But if you want to learn a little bit more, looks like we have somebody, Mark, trying to get back in.
Got
it. Yep, thank you. Yeah, so a good book to read at night is called New Methods of Market Research and Analysis. And that's by G. Scott Erickson. I'll be sharing my notes with everybody. Well, Mark will be, I should say. So that it'll be found in my notes. But again, it's called New Methods of Market Research and Analysis by G. Scott Erickson. And he talks about using new technologies to monitor OKRs and KPIs. I'm not sure if you're all familiar, but those are objectives and key responses, and KPIs are key priority indicators. I'm having a brain fart with the P right now, but either way, there are ways to measure different goals that you're reaching for with your organization. They're used for different things. So it goes a little bit more in depth of how to use different tools out there. One thing that we do as Eltrise with our app is it's actually a tool to engage with what your members are doing in the community with their community service, and realizing like, hey, those connections in the community are valuable. So we have a lot of different companies that pay for our app to see that. The other thing that under observations is reports. And that's for me, I can relate this back to when I was in the military. My job was an intelligence analyst, and we would track all enemy activity. So if somebody reported that there was an IED, a bomb that was buried in a road, they would report that to me. And over time, I'm creating this long list of reports and collecting it and putting it into a Microsoft Access, putting it into PowerPoints, all sorts of things that I probably can't talk about. That helps us really track, what's happening out in the sector. So that's another way is observations. Now we're going to finally transition into designing your MVP to collect information and then executing it. And this is actually going to be the shortest section. And the reason why is people spend too much time trying to think about what they need to do versus actually doing it. And so you're going to hear me say that a few times. So going back to the methods, you are going to want to identify the best method to gather the information you're looking for. Maybe it's, again, you want to understand why your members are joining. So you're going to go back and say, what were those best method for making that happen? Would it be essentially going back and doing personal engagements? Is it a survey? Is it a publication? Find out what it is and moving forward. This is something that you don't want to spend a whole lot of time on. Just get something started. And I realize I failed to mention what an MVP is. MVP is used in a lot of startup companies, and it means minimum viable product. So when I say an MVP, I'm saying you're putting together your design to essentially go out and engage in the community, whether it's your currently existing community or outreaching people who aren't members. Just put together a minimum viable product and see if that works. Because if you're going to spend days and days on something and you don't know if it's going to work, that seems like a foolish waste of your time. Find something that's simple, you can get going, and be able to organize that information. You're going to learn things on the way. When you do this, you're definitely going to learn things on the way. But yeah, I'm going to give you a couple more examples. Maybe you need a contact list. Maybe you just don't have enough contacts. So you're going to go back into publications, data mine them, web scrape them, use your current database, because it's going to make more sense to quickly build a contact list versus those personal engagements, which do take time. Maybe you're looking for referrals from your current member base. You can go into your current database and schedule personal engagements, which I think is more effective most of the time versus sending impersonal emails. And maybe you'll find that doing both is more efficient, but you really need to get something going and not waste time thinking too much about it, because yeah, inactivity is the killer of progress. But the other thing you need to do is know your resources, what and who will you need to accomplish getting something going. Are you currently using a database? A database is a place for your information and should be able to easily organize. So if you have all, if you go about and you want to move forward, but you don't have it organized in one place, you're going to waste a lot of time, and you're not going to be able to use that information and analyze it, which is going to be your next step in this process. A few different resources could be a CRM, Google Sheets, Microsoft Excel, Access. I don't know if anybody uses it anymore, but I used to use Access. Again, that's a Microsoft product. I think it still is. And if you're more advanced beyond me, maybe you have an SQL system, which stands for Structured Query Language. But just make sure whatever it is, it's going to work for you. And then often a plan is executed, again, but there's no evidence of that data. So again, like for an example, you might have had people attend an event, but now you don't have the list of the people who attended that event. Make sure you're actually, taking that data and putting it somewhere so that you can access and use that data to make decisions later. Another thing is you're going to ask who's assisting. Is this just going to be a Teddy Cotter on his own, or is this going to be somebody else that can help with it? Somebody else on your team, maybe somebody who's interning for your association. And then again, find out what is working quickly. If it's not working, you're going to pivot. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. Find a similar organization and find out what has worked for them. It's a lot easier to just replicate what's been successful. And then taking action again is more important than spending too much time planning. Just get something going. Find a sample size and expand off it, because you're going to learn a lot more just getting something going and saying, hey, you know what? I started this, but I actually need this as well. So you can add on to it later. So yeah, plan what you need and start with an intent, adjust for results, and figure out along the way what methods help you achieve the results you want. With that said, we're going to break into our second activity. And again, I want everybody to introduce themselves. This is our networking part, our personal engagement side of things, and tell everybody why and what your organization does. And then from there, I want you to share your experiences in reaching people who should be members and explain what has worked and what hasn't worked. Because a lot of times I think you find that what hasn't worked helps other people, possibly even more than what has worked. So it prevents people from wasting their time and doing something. Because a lot of times we get these great, awesome ideas, and then you find out like, oh, Mark, you tried this before? And you're like, yep, I sure did. And Mark's like, yeah, it didn't work. And this is the reason why. So I want you all to come back. And the person that has the closest letter to A, going from A to Z, of course, is going to come back and present their findings from their group and tell us what exactly you found that has worked in the past, what hasn't worked. And yeah, we'll come back to this meeting.
So Jesse, real quick on that, I'm about ready to break us out in 2 petite rooms. There being 5 of us survivors still here. So I just wanted to do a quick check, a dance in the moment. Are you still okay with doing a group, or do you just want to keep us a group, the group that we have here right now?
Yep, actually, we can keep it in this group right here.
Okay, then I won't brag about figuring out how to actually exit gently, because we're not going to do that. So yeah, so so Jesse, I think, yeah, just dancing in the moment. If you can, lead us through the conversation, or just pick voluntold, to work through this. That's probably better than just cycling. So let's go ahead and do that.
Let's start with Ben. So we'll do it by alphabetical order by the first name.
All right, this is Zen Hudson, and I'm with INCOSE, International Council on Systems Engineering, international organization. We have a local chapter here in Hampton Roads, Virginia, and we have a certification program that entices people coming out of their college degree to consider being certified, and then a more advanced certification for those with experience. We try to provide value to our members to help them in their job promotions and learning how to do their jobs, and then in their later careers with publications and resources through the website. We have had over 100 members for years, and that worked for a while, but there's been a decline in membership in the recent 6 years or so. And so who knows what it will look like after we're getting back out there in person. So things that I've tried going way back was we always tried to make a flyer, a one-page flyer, and squeeze on as much information as we could with a picture of the speaker and a bio and the meeting time and something yummy about the food that we'd have. And so I'd spend my time the last couple of days before the meeting trying to get those flyers out to as many places as I could where I thought engineers would be working or walking by. And that didn't work, especially in the later years. What I really found was I should have used that time to make individual calls to particular people that I thought would be interested in coming, because if you can grow your attendance by even 1 or 2 people each meeting to people who will continue to come because of that personal connection, that's much more effective than the flyers. And we spent a ton of time on those flyers. It wasn't, least viable product. It was lots of reviews and squeeze on more stuff and reformat. So I know that's years ago, but even trying to send those out electronically, about the same impact.
Yep. I would have to agree with that. I've also done that before. Like, hey, we're gonna have something going on. Let's create a bunch of flyers, try to get them in the right hands and see what happens. But it really doesn't touch you personally like it does if you can schedule a one-on-one. Sally, I'll let you jump in. Oh, you're on mute. It went off and then back on mute again.
Okay, I already shared, I'm part of American Association of University Women, and we do a lot of advocacy things, just more about, what we've been real concerned about recruitment lately. And I think I'd agree with you fellas that we've done flyers that have really helped with, like, when we have scholarship applications, we try to provide a couple scholarships for women, like $1,000 every year. And we've had flyers in the library. There's a big wall in Central Library, and probably the branches too, for flyers. We've had some luck with that. And we've had STEM for Girls. Which was a conference for middle school girls, in which local women in STEM professions came and had to do a hands-on thing with the girls. And that we did mostly with email and Eventbrite, and had pretty good luck with that, and contacting teachers and guidance counselors. But I think the personal touch is really important, like you say. And we've done a lot of that more for retention almost. We do a thing called Zip Sisters, where we take zip codes and we have little Zip Sister teams of who we call every month to remind about the meeting, and people really seem to appreciate that. But that's not a recruitment thing so much. We've been to community events where we've had a table for membership. We almost always have folks who say they want to receive the newsletter, but not too many people come. So we need to do something different. I'm not sure exactly what it would be. And I can't think of much else right now.
Teddy, you want to jump in?
Yes, hello. So for me, I'm the executive director of Our Brother's Keeper, which I advocate, educate, and bring awareness to bring the best resources there is. And my mission is I'm trying to combat the overpopulation of group homes and nursing homes by giving the caregivers what they need so they can keep their loved ones at home. But it's like help for me, the help, getting the people to get on board to do the things that I don't have to do. So that's been a struggle for me of getting the help. So now I'm trying to get more people to volunteer, and I'm just adding people to my board. Some people left, and I recently got a bigger building because I wanted to do more programs, which I'm doing the art program for the people with different abilities, as well as the caregivers too as well. And also a parent advocacy group where teaching them how to advocate, and we come in and it's like a support group under that. And we're just talking about different topics and doing activities for them. So I'm trying to be more engaged and trying to get more people to come out and participate. So that's been a big struggle for me. And also, I know you were talking about membership. I'm trying to see how I can utilize that to fit it into my organization. So
Very cool, Nadine. I had a question. Actually, yeah, this is a question, I guess, for everybody. How often are your organizations collaborating with others? And I don't know the exact name, what you call it, but essentially you can take a spreadsheet and identify other community partners that can help spread your message. So for like Sally, an idea that popped up in my head is introducing you to a program that actually helps students, specifically underrepresented students, with STEM programs. And so that would be a way to outreach with the scholarships that you do, with the STEM scholarships that your association does. So I was just curious how often everybody on this call has done something like that.
Oh, that's good. Now, I tried to partner, a matter of fact, with one organization, but it seemed like, and I can't say all of them are like that. it was like an intimidation. They didn't want to, and I thought maybe, okay, we're doing the same thing. Why can't we partner, collaborate on some of these projects, or to get the word out, even, to more people? We coming together. But I got kind of like, in a matter of, it was, yeah, that was a big organization. And I kind of picked it up from someone else. I was like, wow. So I kind of like, was doing everything by myself, but that shouldn't be. So I would love to learn how another way, using a system, or on how I can introduce myself and possibly partner with some, with my tribe.
Yep. I've seen that happen, unfortunately, too, where another organization feels like there's a competition,
Right.
and they don't want to collaborate with each other. Can't really, tell them how to respond. Just keep doing your outreach, and then you never know, it might come back around. I know a person named John Fuse, which Mark Bowers also knows, I believe, and he needed his competition actually help. He unfortunately got COVID this past year, and he tells the story of to always make sure that you're keeping your relationships with people, because you never know who might be able to help save your business. And he had to go to a competitor's business and be like, hey, I've got this client, and that client appreciated everything, because obviously with the situation and them being an event management company, it was huge to make sure that event would continue on, even though John couldn't do it himself. So that's just another perspective to look at it. And let's hit up Teddy. I think we're running close to out of time. I want to make sure I'm able to present the rest of everything and have Teddy be able to give a little bit of his knowledge to us.
Well, I will be succinct then. Introduction, I am Steve Cotter. I'm on the leadership board for a couple of professional societies. That's where I'm coming from. I belong to 3 other professional societies, just don't have time to be actively involved with them, which gets back to our other issues. So my experience that doesn't work: surveys, low response rate, email, very much the same. Monthly meetings, we have monthly meetings in all the professional societies. I'm exactly in the same situation that Ben is. About 6 to 10 years ago, our membership peaked out, high levels of activity, and it's been on the decline. Of course, COVID has done a significant hit on membership and attendance. Collaboration, all of my organizations I'm in actively collaborate with other professional societies. We have found that we get attendance at webinars, especially if we get the message out and it's a subject of interest. And we get a few members out of webinars. But that's pretty much my experience.
Is it specific webinars that attract people to come to them, or is it, or do you have you not?
It is subject specific, related to either we're doing micro webinars towards certification in one society. The other society, we're doing micro webinars for students for their in basic knowledge domains. So yeah, they have to be targeted webinars. They're not just general, have somebody show up and give a talk about their experience in some experimental design or something.
Okay. All right, I am gonna move on to the next piece, unless Mark has something he wants to add in.
Yeah, just real fast, and trying to be respectful of everybody's time here. There's a bunch of other things that I've seen, wearing my professional society hat that worked. So LinkedIn search on job titles, and this might be more for professional development societies than advocacy groups, but a very deliberate, detailed filtered search on LinkedIn to get those names so you can make those personal asks. If you're an organization that does have a mothership, right, the national or the global, or even if you're subordinate to a region, cross-check their list of leads with yours. It's kind of a Zip Sisters thing, like Sally's got going there. And then the other one that I wanted to share is, and I'll put something in the resources. So on Friday, I'll get an email with a link to a resources page. There's this concept of micro-targeting, about still making a personal message without necessarily having to devote a ton of time to individuals. Use cases. So I'm going to flop that PDF in the resources page, and you're willing to take that out for a ride, or you can chat with me later and stuff like that. So yeah, so back to you, Jessie.
Awesome resource right there. I could dive in deeper with that, but we're going to run out of time. So the next piece is organizing your data so that you can analyze it. Again, the whole idea is you want to create an MVP, get something going on, but you'll be able to make adjustments as necessary. So the reason why this is important is it makes it easier for everyone to understand, and also sets you up to present to others in order to make conclusions and decisions. So otherwise you're going out and you're hitting LinkedIn 2 hours a day, which I do recommend for a lot of reasons. That LinkedIn is awesome for data mining and at least getting a name, if anything, which Mark mentioned. But seeing, how your time is being used and what the results are from there. Another reason why is it allows for a continuation and a process. So being able to put it in one spreadsheet or a CRM or whatever you might be doing allows the next person to jump in and continue what you're doing, because it could become larger than yourself. And then it also making sure that it meets the needs of your organization. If you're trying to grow your membership, but you don't have an organized way of doing something, it's going to be hard to say, okay, we moved from 100 members to 120 members. And this is the reason why. It's because we created this MVP and this gained 10. And then going back to your database, having the right data. I think I know personally that I start something out and then I expand from it, and realizing that I don't have all the data that I need to measure and learn. So I go back and expand and say, I did something where I reached out to 50 people. Well, now I don't look like a fool going back to the same 50 people, but I want to expand it to another 500. So now I can add in more information I actually think that will be useful for what I'm trying to achieve. And so something like that is you say for an example, Sally, you're like, we really need to get more youthful people, because we know that people are leaving. Back to the examples that you said, now you know exactly who your current demographics are, and you can reach out and say, well, we actually do want to know what the ages of the new people that are coming in, so you can go back and find that out. And again, you can figure that out by different methods that we spoke about earlier. With an MVP, it makes you look less foolish, and you can always expand on your MVP and roll out the real deal to a wider audience, and then include that. Keep expanding. I know for L-Tries, one of the things that we originally weren't tracking was what they belong to. We had people that would download our app, but we didn't know if they belonged to a school and they're doing it for community service requirements for school, if they're just doing it for themselves, was it for a business, and so on. So we've continually adjusted and continue to try to make the most sense for the user on that end. The one thing you're going to want to ask is, was your MVP successful? you're essentially trying to validate or invalidate your outreach with the MVP. If it was successful, expand it. Go from those 50 people that you did outreach on and increase it tenfold or whatever. If it's not successful, ask yourself why. Was it due to a design, an execution of the MVP? Or did you truly not achieve your results because the method itself doesn't work? So making sure that you can, be able to pinpoint that part. If you don't have results, try a different method. That's why you do an MVP. You quickly learn if it works or not and not waste your time and money on it, and move on to something else and try it and see if that works. And then the other thing is decide what needs to be changed before you move forward. Again, that could be that maybe you realize that you weren't finding the specific demographic that matches your association's vision. You thought it would be a great fit for your association, but you realize that they really weren't a great fit. So find out what those things are and then change what you're doing to try to narrow down your audience. We're in a world where we're in abundance. When somebody tells me they're just not people that are interested, I'm like, no, that's not true. It's something that we have to take responsibility and find out. So gonna move on to distributing that information so that you can take information. It's fine and dandy if you gather this information, but if you're not sharing it with the right people, then you're really wasting your time still. So making sure that you're getting that information to the right people so that they can make a conclusion or decision themselves as well will be helpful for your cause, because now you can get more people behind it and saying, hey, I did this. This is what my campaign was. This was the results. This is what we achieved. Now let's expand that. Know who your audience is and what they need to know. Again, you don't want to, if they don't care about something in your report, don't tell them. Don't waste their time. Tell them what's important to making sure that they can get on your side, whether it's moving forward or even not moving forward with an idea. Be prepared to explain the results. If you can do it, nobody else can. Use visuals, use stories, use numbers. Numbers are less effective from what I've heard, but being able to link that story is very, very important. And then the next thing is, what are your next steps? Are you able to create a marketing plan from it? Are you able to create member outreach plan and being like, okay, we found out that these are the type of people joining and this is why. Make decisions to capture your goals. To recap everything, we discussed what we should do or know before we begin collecting information and understand where we currently are at. So we've talked about our whys, and I keep saying that because I really want each of you to understand why people are going to join your association. It's more important than getting a discount and stuff like that. All these benefits and features, there's really an underlying reason. It's just like why would somebody use a certain soap? They feel like they're getting cleaner from using a certain soap. You really need to get deep into the why people are doing things. They like the scent, and that scent smells clean to them, so they have that association. So really digging deeper into that for everybody is helpful. We also went over the 5 different ways to collect information. That again is publications, document records, personal engagement, surveys, and observations. We spoke about creating MVP to collect data and executing on that plan. Action is better than inaction, because they always say knowledge is power, but it really isn't. Knowledge without action is powerless. We also learned about making sure the data from the MVP should validate and invalidate your outreach and deciding how you want to move forward. And then lastly, making sure that the information you shared is shared with others so that they can take action as well and help you get up those obstacles. This is the time for questions and anything you want to add.
One thing you reminded me of, Jessie, is I was at another something similar to this week, and I thought it was a really good idea. They said they had their members, and I think you could like make it like just 3, 4, 5 sentences, say why they joined or why they think someone would want to join. And you can, those could be stories, like you say, stories work pretty well, or you might get ideas about reasons someone should join, you know, from listening to your own members, reasons why they did. But it just, you reminded me of that, and I think we might try that.
To dive deeper, Sally, is when you do your member outreach and they love your association, get a testimonial from them. Have them tell their story, because I think there's a lot of power in that. And most people would love if you share their story too. And it really brings the emotions of why people would want to join your association.
All right, Jessie, we're about there. First of all, I'd like to thank you and thank everybody for being engaged and participating and building on your own knowledge, building Jessie's knowledge while Jessie built ours. So thank you all for that. To do a virtual round of applause for each and every one of us. This is really good. There's a couple of quick takeaways that I heard that really resonated with me. And Jessie, I'll get your contact information to everybody. It was the importance of the why. Why are we doing this? Why do people join? Why do they stay? Why do they leave? Why? And of course, there's also a common thread that Jessie and many of the participants shared about that, the importance of the personal contact. It's like you got to go eyeball to eyeball, toe to toe with somebody to get them done, to get them to do something. My favorite phrase is, "Can I count on you to commit to this?" or something like that. And there's some psychological judo that I'm not going to go into right now. Again, thank you everybody for your time. On Friday morning, you will receive an email from PDCHR with a list of resources or links to a bunch of resources, including a recording of this session. I'm also going to include a link to a recording of the session we did in February, which was all about measurements. So, Jessie covered that, to a certain degree, and it's, and not a perfect match with what happened in February. So that might be something, if you hadn't attended, I know Teddy, you were at that one with Scott Weersing, but that might be, an interesting one, to supplement your knowledge. So we keep our stuff up on YouTube for that. I'm going to put in speaking of the personal things and tracking and data, I have just dropped into the chat box our next event. So we're completing our quarter about, working with the community. This was about learning from the community today, mostly. And next month on June 9th, Wednesday, June 9th, we talk about marketing out to the workshop. So you take all this great information you've got about the community. It's like, all right, now how do we pitch to them and ask them to join us or do something for us? Just to underscore some of the things we talked about here. So I am asking Sally and Ben and Jessie and Teddy and Nadine and all the people who couldn't make it with us because, hopefully they'll play this. I'm making a personal ask for you to click on this link right now, have it open, right? And then take some time. Don't make a decision now. Just click on the link, burn up another browser tab. So just leave that open. The other thing is, if you look in that link, you'll see at the very end, it says, after the little question mark, it says AFF equals ask. So Eventbrite, which we use for everything, allows you to gain some information about where someone came in from. So anytime I do this personal ask, like I'm doing right now, the link has that F equals ask in it. So in my analysis, I know the people who registered and showed up because I asked them face to face, or somebody did. And I've got a whole bunch of codes that sit behind there that are transparent pretty much to the user, but it's all the world of data to me. The other thing I'm going to ask you to do is, and this one may not pop up as a link, is to, yeah, you'll have to copy and paste this one. The last little piece of data that we try and gather is, what did you gain out of this? Did you learn a little bit about something you didn't know? Are you motivated in applying this to your organization? Did you hear anything about overcoming obstacles? So I asked these same 3 questions since our very first session, November 8th, 2017. And it just helps us tune, what we present to you. So with that, I will, so go ahead and click that, or well, you can't, go ahead and open that, do it now. It takes like 2 minutes tops, or do it when you can. And with that, we are on time at 7:30. We promised we'd end right now. I'm going to chill out here and just leave this up in case anybody's got any other questions about PDCHR. Jessie, if you can hang out with us, that's great. If not, because I know you got a ton of work on your schedule, that's cool too. But I'm going to sit here and do a little bit of admin until, pretty much you all disappear. So with that, thank you so much for attending, and you are free to move about the country.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely, Sally. Ben, good to see you again. Teddy, thanks for dropping in. Nadine, always good to see you or watch you in your car.
Thanks, everybody.
Good luck.
All right, Jessie, thanks again.
Have a
Jump
good one.
off here.
Good luck, Nadine.
Take care. Bye, Mark.
Bye, Ben. Take care.
Bye, Jess.
All right, thanks everybody.